Article 6 Government-controlled entity. 1. A government-controlled entity shall be exempt from corporate tax and the provisions of this decree law shall not apply to it. 2. Notwithstanding Clause 1 of this article, a government-controlled entity shall be subject to the provisions of this decree law if it conducts a business or business activity that is not its mandated activities. 3. Any business or business activity conducted by a government-controlled entity that is not its mandated activity shall be treated as an independent business, and the government-controlled entity shall keep financial statements for this business separately from its mandated activity. 4. The government-controlled entity shall calculate the taxable income for its business or business activity that is not its mandated activity independently for each tax period, in accordance with the provisions of this decree law. 5. Transactions between the business or business activity specified in Clause 2 of this article and the mandated activity of the government-controlled entity shall be considered related party transactions subject to the provisions of Article 34 of this decree law. Article 7 Extractive business. 1. A person shall be exempt from corporate tax and the provisions of this decree law shall not apply to its extractive business where all of the following conditions are met. A. The person directly or indirectly holds or has an interest in a right, concession or license issued by a local government to undertake its extractive business. B. The person is effectively subject to tax under the applicable legislation of an emirate in accordance with the provisions of Clause 6 of this article. C. The person has made a notification to the Ministry in the form and manner agreed with the local government. 2. If a person that meets the conditions of Clause 1 of this article derives income from both an extractive business and any other business that is within the scope of this decree law, the following shall apply. A. The income derived from the extractive business shall be calculated and taxed according to the applicable legislation of the emirate. B. The income derived from the other business shall be subject to the provisions of this decree law, unless that other business meets the conditions to be exempt from corporate tax under Article 8 of this decree law. 3. For the purposes of Clause 2 of this article, a person shall not be considered to derive income from any other business where such other business is ancillary or incidental to that person's extractive business and the revenue of such other business in a tax period does not exceed 5% of the total revenue of that person in the same tax period. 4. For the purposes of calculating the taxable income of the person's other business, the following shall apply. A. The other business shall be treated as an independent business, and financial statements shall be kept for this business separately from the extractive business. B. Any common expenditure shared between the extractive business and the other business of the person shall be apportioned in proportion to their revenue in the tax period, unless such expenditure is taken into account in different proportions for the purposes of calculating the tax payable by the person under the applicable legislation of the relevant emirate in respect of its extractive business, in which case the expenditure will be apportioned in the latter proportion. C. The person shall calculate the taxable income for its other business independently for each tax period in accordance with the provisions of this decree law. 5. Transactions between the extractive business and the other business of the same person shall be considered related party transactions subject to the provisions of Article 34 of this decree law, unless such other business is exempt from corporate tax under Article 8 of this decree law. 6. A person shall be considered effectively subject to tax under the applicable legislation of the emirate for the purposes of this article if the local government imposes a tax on income or profits, a royalty or revenue tax, or any other form of tax, charge or levy in respect of such person's extractive business. 7. The exemption under this article shall not apply to contractors, subcontractors, suppliers or any other person used or contemplated to be used in any part of the performance of the extractive business that does not in its own right meet the conditions to be exempt from corporate tax under this article or Article 8 of this decree law.